Well, good evening. Welcome to the Easton Film Festival show. I'm Lauren Swartz, your hostess. As you can see, I'm here by myself this evening for actually a very special Easton Film Festival Presents, Filmmakers of Easton. I'm here to tell you about our recent film jam, our first EFF film jam. It was held a couple of weekends ago on Martin Luther King weekend. And our show tonight is highlighting two of the two best films from the Film Jam, and one of the filmmakers is going to be joining us a little bit later. Anyway, again, welcome to our show. If it's your first time joining us, thank you for tuning in, and if you are a repeat watcher, if you're an addict, hello again. The Easton Film Festival proudly presents this cable show on Mondays and Tuesdays at 7 o'clock here on Channel 9. A thank you to Comcast. We also sponsor a forum film series at Andrew's Bakery, which is located across from the Stonehill College main entrance. Every other Friday night, Julie Andrews and her crew at Andrew's Bakery welcome us, and welcome Mr. Ed Hand, who's the humanities teacher over at Oliver Ames High School. He has chosen a list of films that we've been showing throughout the year. We show them free of charge to everyone, and after the film is screened, there is a discussion about the film, about the genre, about the film type, some of the earmarkings of this particular film and why Mr. Hands chose it. So I encourage you to join us. The next film, February 6th, is The Color of Paradise. It is a wonderful, beautiful film from Iran about a blind boy and lifestyle and some changes that he has. So please come by Andrew's Bakery on February 6th, and if you can't make it then, 2 weeks later is the screening of Il Postino, one of the most famous foreign films to ever come out of Italy. And it is also a beautiful, beautiful film about an island and a lowly mailman and the very famous poet who comes to inhabit the island, and their relationship and romance and a little bit of political insight thrown in. So I encourage you to check out the film series. Again, it's free of charge, and when you go into Andrew's Bakery, you can purchase the soups, the sandwiches, the baked goodies, the delicious things that Julie and her crew have prepared. So I encourage you to do that as well. Also coming up, the Easton Film Festival sponsors our annual film competition, which will be accepting entries about May. You'll have to check on our website or check in the Easton Journal for notices. We invite filmmakers in Easton and at Stonehill College, students of Stonehill College, to submit a film, either a documentary or a fiction drama. Comedies would be welcome as well, of your choosing and your creativity. And it can be a group of people, it can be a solo filmmaker, however you'd like it to be. We will screen all of the films on a one-day, day-long process, and as well as having judging by local prominent film experts and some of the local interested parties. So please keep an eye out in the Easton Journal for the Easton Film Festival notifications, as well as our website, which is hosted by Clearpoint Communications. Our website is eastonfilmfestival.com. You can see all kinds of information about our schedules, our competitions, what's coming up in the town. So back to our film jam, which was our first effort this year at the film competition, so to speak. We actually heard about this going on in other communities around the country, where people get together, and it's a weekend-long competition, so everybody is on the same footing. Everybody has the same advantages or disadvantages, the same time commitment to produce a film. Teams draw a film genre, a film category on a Friday night, for example, and have the entire weekend to envision, produce, create, film, edit their entry. it has been decided here that we're going to do it over long weekends because it gives you that extra day of filming. So our first weekend was Martin Luther King weekend when it was about 8 below out. So for exterior kinds of films, it was a little bit of a challenge, as you will see. But teams met Friday evening. They drew a film genre out of a hat, a category of film, mystery, action, adventure, drama, whatever. And then they also, for an added twist on your content, had to choose a line of dialogue out of a hat as well. You didn't necessarily have a line of dialogue that would have fit with your style of movie. For example, if you chose romance, you probably would not have chosen a line of dialogue, "Love means never having to say you're sorry," a very famous line from Love Story. Anyway, the idea was to challenge the teams with the genre and with the line of dialogue. So tonight's show is highlighting our second place and our first place winners. The winners were decided by an audience vote. So everyone who submitted a film was then invited to come back the next week for the screening. Bring as many people as you'd like to vote for your film, and that's what happened. We had a very large showing. We were bursting at the seams at Andrew's Bakery. There weren't enough seats for everybody, which was very exciting. We screened all of the films, and everybody who was there had a ballot. No matter what age you were, no matter where you lived, you had a ballot, and you chose your what you thought were the best films. So tonight, the first film I'd like to share with you was from a group headed by Ian McCahill, who is a 7th grader here in Easton, and he drew Action Adventure was his title. And examples of action adventure that you may be aware of are the Indiana Jones movies that Spielberg did, I guess in about the 1980s. Those are modern time action adventures. James Bond all of the James Bond series is a little bit more of a vintage action adventure, but there are many fans of the James Bond films out there, so that kind of a genre is an action adventure, as well as something like the Mission Impossible movies with a little bit more special effects. So this was the genre that Ian and his team chose, and then his line of dialogue was one of the most famous lines of dialogue to ever come out of a film from I guess a horror film. The line of dialogue was, "I see dead people," from The Sixth Sense. So Ian's challenge was to incorporate his line of dialogue, "I see dead people," into his action adventure. And with the added stress of filming it in one weekend, it was a weekend, again, where the weather was bitingly cold. And so I'd like to share with you right now Ian's adventure. So take a look with me.
Ladies and gentlemen, there may be a slight problem with the projector screen, so just sit tight and watch the movie, please. Thank you.
I see dead people. In your dreams?
Hello? Are you sure? A job?
While you're awake?
Now? I'm kind of busy. Can I call you back? Alright, bye.
Dead people like...
The job.
You're to kill Fidel Castro, president of Cuba. His army intercepted a shipment of my cocaine, and I feel that it is my duty to put his head on a stick.
Live news reporter here in Havana as rioters take to the streets. We have a full-scale revolt in Cuba. You can hear the gunshot behind me. I better get under cover now.
So Ian and family were able to recreate this action adventure, dealing with the cold weather by using modeling, models, some special effects, a beautiful job with the titles. And that was his submission. Just as a sidelight to those of you who are now thinking about what you're going to do for our next Film Jam competition, the film editing software that everybody uses is very simple to use, inexpensive to purchase if you want some for yourself. There are several locations in Easton from film festival members who have the software and can teach you how to use it. So please do not think that because you don't have editing capabilities that you are ineligible or will be unqualified to submit a film, because it's absolutely not true. Please start thinking about how you're going to clear your calendars for the 4th of July weekend and also the Columbus Day weekend this fall for the next Film Jam offerings. We also did have prizes awarded, so there is that incentive as well as just the fun of the competition. So as I said to you, that was the Cuban Affair, Ian McCahill's submission, and that actually won first prize. We want to congratulate Ian and his whole family. They had a large turnout for the voting, which helped. But what I'd like to do right now is welcome one of our local celebrity producer filmmakers who's done quite a lot of work for us in Easton, Scott Finnegan. Thank you for coming again.
Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. You have been on our show before. You've done many films for the Children's Museum, National Resources Trust, but this was a chance for you to really show your creativity. So let me just tell everybody first. Well, actually, why don't you go ahead and tell your story, because it's much more exciting hearing it from the filmmaker himself.
Well, I drew the film noir genre,
Okay.
which is sort of a classic film genre. It includes movies like The Third Man and
Yes.
a lot of movies with Humphrey Bogart playing Sam Spade,
Yes.
the private detective, like the Maltese Falcon.
Correct.
And they're usually urban detective stories shot in black and white with harsh camera angles and
Correct.
lots of contrasty lighting. And
Right. Usually, a lot of times, it's their thoughts. It's not. He's not speaking it. It's their thoughts that are the
there's-
dialogue.
There's usually a running sort of monologue,
Right.
internal monologue that gives it sort of a hard-boiled flair.
Sure, but again, you've mentioned some classic films. I mean, film noir is almost it's in itself, I mean, subject of many films, but really one of the ultimate and most challenging of to do it right. But you did such a beautiful job. As soon as it came on, those of us who are film groupies were like, because it really was spectacular. What you produced, it really,
Thanks.
really was. So, but now you also had a challenge. You had a line of dialogue that you also drew.
Yeah,
and that
well,
was-
actually,
yes.
It was my job to come up with all the film genres and the dialogue,
That's
the lines
right.
of dialogue.
That's right.
So I came up with everybody's dialogue, and I came up with everybody's genre, and we sort of put them all in a hat, and we drew them. I ended up with a line from The Predator, which was made famous by Jesse Ventura.
Oh
who
yes,
was
Governor Jesse Ventura.
a wrestler. Then he became the governor of Minnesota, I think.
Right.
And
But in between, he made a few films.
yeah, well, he was in Predator. I think he
Right.
got knocked off early by the Predator.
Okay.
But he says there's a point where he's sort of being all macho, and he says, "I ain't got time to bleed," you know.
I ain't got time to bleed.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's after a big fight scene, and he's wounded,
Okay.
and somebody points out that he's wounded, and he says, I don't have time for this."
Okay. So, well, now I ain't got time to bleed and film noir. They're not too far-fetched from each other.
No, it's kind of hard.
Okay.
It's kind of a hard-boiled line. And
Good.
Film noir, there's a lot of, wisecracks and, tough guy speak and stuff like that.
A little bit of sarcasm
so,
sometimes towards the other characters.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it fit pretty nicely.
Okay, so you got your title and you got your line of dialogue. How did you come up with this production?
Well, I had a couple ideas, but I ended up with all my team members sort of found other things to do. So I ended up sort of on my own,
Okay.
and none of my ideas really fit being like the only actor to be in it and the guy who has to direct it too. So I spent most of the weekend trying to come up with an idea that worked with just me.
Okay.
And finally I just gave up and I decided to make the movie about not being able to come up with an idea
Okay.
for a movie.
Right.
Kind of like adaptation.
Right.
Where you just the movie is figuring out what the movie's going to be.
Right.
So
Or
I don't
almost
know,
like a
it's kinda-
sitcom, right.
It's kind of cheating a little bit, but
No. Now, but did you have any assistants, or did you? I mean, because you set some camera angles, and then you're in the camera. Was there
Yeah.
somebody else working the camera?
well, for the most part, it was just me.
Oh,
And I
boy.
would set the camera up, and then I would turn it on, and I would edit out the part where I turned on.
You were
turned it on.
moving.
My little brother helped me on like 1 or 2 shots, just
Okay.
sort of guarded the camera while I was outside and cars were going by and stuff like that. But for the most part, it was just kind of me sitting in front of the camera, turning it on, and just doing my thing.
And you are the narrator as well.
Yep.
Which well, people will see this, but it's a wonderful example of this particular film. And afterwards, many of us said, you should enter this in the regular Easton Film Festival competition because it is as good as the things that have won in past years. So maybe you're onto something here. But anyway, so if we can, let's share Scott's film noir submission. And you called it "I Ain't Got Time to Bleed"?
Yeah, I just used that as the title.
Very good. I ain't got time to bleed.
She breezed into my office like an autumn wind, 5'9", with legs that didn't quit until her shoes, and then they were only napping. She was a woman with a problem, and I was her solution. Make a movie, she said, a film noir masterpiece. She took a card out of her purse and told me the movie needed to include a specific line. I looked at the card. There was a single sentence in quotations. I ain't got time to bleed. It was a strange assignment, but I had a few tricks up my sleeve. Then she dropped a bomb on me. The movie had to be finished in 2.5 days. There was no time to lose. I hit the streets searching for the perfect story. The cold hit my face like an icy slap. I thought about my favorite movies. Touch of Evil, The Maltese Falcon, The Third Man. They were all classics. Would my film be a classic? I decided to do a little legwork. I went to the local video store to get a feel for the latest releases. The place was lousy with every kind of movie you could think of. Action, comedy, even foreign flicks. Movies wall to wall. What kind of movie should it be? Should I make a Western, gunslinging tale of good versus evil on the American frontier? But where would I get the horses? Or should it be a space opera, an odyssey to distant alien planets full of strange alien creatures? But there was no budget for special effects. My next move was to do a little research, read up on a few of cinema's greatest geniuses. I combed through page after page of mise-en-scene, rack focus, and montage editing. And they were there too, the usual suspects. There was Kubrick, whose films were epic masterpieces. Pictures like 2001, A Clockwork Orange, and The Shining. There was Hitchcock, who revolutionized the thriller genre with films like Vertigo, Psycho, and The Birds. I read up on John Cassavetes, the father of independent film. And of course, the granddaddy of them all, Orson Welles, who defined narrative cinema with his first film, Citizen Kane. Time was running out. I was drawing a blank. Then it hit me. The answer had been right in front of me all along. I grabbed my camera and hit the streets, ready to make my magnum opus. But with only a few hours left, don't try and slow me down. I ain't got time to bleed.
So for people who didn't know what film noir was, that genre, this was, again, one of the best examples because it had people talk, you were talking off camera and an action going on, you were talking on camera, it was your thoughts. It was wonderful. Did you have a good time filming it?
Well, it was kind of I kind of left it to the last minute, so it was kind of a rush to get everything in. I enjoyed editing it.
Okay.
It was, once I had everything shot and I got into the editing room, it was sort of, there was a little bit of a load off my mind and I enjoyed putting it together.
Okay.
And there was a technical challenge where I wasn't sure how I was going to, as sophisticated as the Easton Film Festival's editing equipment is,
Right.
I wasn't really sure how I was going to get the voiceover to come out, how to cut out the audio track of the videotape,
Okay.
and just put in a separate audio track that was just my voice
Okay.
talking along with the movie. So I wasn't sure how I was going to achieve that. But then I sort of jury-rigged a system to pull a separate audio track off of off of another videotape. So I just used the video camera to record as though it was a recording picture, but I left the lens cap on and just talked into the microphone.
Ah.
And then I used that tape and just pulled the audio track off that tape.
Okay.
And
Oh, very clever. There you go. Was there footage that you left on the cutting room floor?
very little.
Okay.
I sort of plotted the whole thing out so it would go as quickly and smoothly as possible.
Okay.
There was maybe one or two shots that I just threw away.
Okay.
But for the most part, it was pretty much. I spent a lot of time that morning. I think it was a Monday.
Right.
That it was due. It was due at 8 o'clock, and I spent the morning writing it, and I wrote all the dialogue, and I wrote a list of shots, and except the end. The end I didn't come up with till like the last minute.
Okay.
And then I spent a couple hours shooting it, and then I went in and edited it, and I finished editing it at like 8:15 or something. Right when it was due.
Okay. You have editing software at home? Or?
No, I use the Easton Film Festival resources,
Okay.
actually. A lot of people don't know that they can just come to the Easton Film Festival and use the editing equipment there.
Okay.
I can supervise people coming in to learn how to use it. And
Okay.
then, you can sort of book time with Bill.
Okay.
And so the resources are there.
Okay.
And that's what I used.
Now did you film with the small video camera or you used the large camera like this?
I used a small, pretty sophisticated Sony DV camera because
Okay.
I needed the camera to have the digital black and white effect.
Right.
Not all cameras do that.
Okay.
But I knew of this one specific camera that had the black and white effect.
Okay.
So.
Okay.
I used that.
But then you edited it and put it onto the videotape, and the editing equipment that we have at Easton Film Festival allows you to do that and put it
Yeah.
onto a videotape itself.
I just dumped it onto a
Okay.
regular videotape.
Very cool. And it came out. And is it fun to watch it as we sat there and watched it again and again? I mean, I know you did it so quickly.
It's a little. I don't know. You get a little self-conscious when you watch it.
Oh, well, but you're there
It's
on
a
the
little
screen
embarrassing.
too.
Yeah.
No, but it was. I mean, it was nice. Is it hard to watch yourself on?
Yes.
See, I never watch myself on this show, so that's why. But it is hard to watch yourself there.
It's not hard. It's not hard to film myself.
Okay.
But it's hard to watch myself.
Okay, got it. Well, it really is. It was a joy to see it. I'm so glad that you submitted a film because it's nice to have such a variety of talents, from local people to people who are a little more savvy about it, and all in all, it was a great time. I think a great time was had by all.
Yeah.
And looking forward to the next one.
Yes, definitely. I think we should try to more actively recruit people to come and participate.
Okay.
It was a good start, but we should get
Right.
the ball rolling on a few more entries.
Well, when we had the screening, that was the one thing everybody says we want to have a lot more people. It'll be a lot more fun because when we watched, the submissions that we had, it was great, but then we wanted more.
Yeah.
And it wasn't that the ones that were submitted weren't great. We love them all, but we just wanted a lot more. We would have sat there for hours and hours and hours if we could have.
But you got a good turnout on the voting, so maybe
Right,
that'll...
that's good. But anyway, thank you so much for joining
Sure.
us. I want to thank everyone for once again joining the Easton Film Festival show. This was a special edition of our Film Jam, our first Film Jam. The next one will be 4th of July weekend, so keep an eye out. I want to thank Andrews Bakery for hosting the Film Jam. I want to thank the Northeastern Savings Bank, who is our very generous sponsor and best friend in town. I want to thank Comcast for hosting this show, and also ClearPoint for doing our website, eastonfilmfestival.com. Please tune in again. I look forward to seeing you the next show. Come to the Film Jam, come to the foreign film series, and have a good evening. Thanks so much. Good night.